Right then, it's Give It a Swing outdoors with Smith. Yep, it's been a while, but I've been waiting for this weather to break to see if we could get something more outdoorsy done, but it's just absolutely crap. As they said in the Shakespeare play, there is something rotten in the state of Denmark. It's the weather. However, it might be just changing. Let's hope. So, as the title suggests, today we're looking at jellied eels. So what I've done, I thought we'd get this all started and underway. What it means is, or should I say the process is, the eels have to be boiled. So I've got some water just boiling here. I'll bring it to a rolling boil. But first of all, let's look at the eels. These are the eel sections, and I got these eels off a colleague of mine and a friend who is a part-time eel fisherman. This is in Denmark. And the Danish are mad on eels, just like they are in England, but I'll get onto that now. England, jellied eels are a London dish. The East End of London, South London, South London. That's where the jellied eel. We didn't get them up where I come from. I'm sure there are pockets around the country that maybe do eat these eels, but the jellied eel really is it's an East End, South London thing, and they're a very good source of nourishment. And I think back in the day, years and years ago, this was a very good source of protein for people who really didn't have a lot of money. Not everybody in London lives in Hampstead with stacks of cash. You know, the East End, they were as working class as you can get. So let's make some of these jellied eels. The only other thing is, I'd like to point, actually we'll get back to that. Let's get going, let's get these eels in the water and we'll take it from there. As you can see, I've got the old Trangia on the go. Right, there we go then. Right, the eel sections are in. I shall just put them down in the boiling water, and I've got some sea salt, peppercorns, some rosemary and bay leaves, and I'll bung that all in now, and that goes in there. So let's bring these up to a boil, and they only need 10 minutes. But how do I know all this about jellied eels if they're not part of my culture? Well, it's because I'm interested in different stuff, and I just quite by chance came across jellied eels at the pie and mash shops. It was on a YouTube thing. So in the East End of London, they have this tradition of pie and mash. So you get a meat pie, not an eel pie like most people think, a meat pie with a big dollop of mashed potato, and then some jellied eels, and what's the liquor made of it? I think it's a parsley sauce, which is called a liquor. If you want to check that out, just check it out, traditional London jellied eels, and then you'll get all the info. But I thought I'd do it today just as a bit of fun, something different to do. But again, I thought I'd do it on a Trangia. Now, as I said before, the Danes like eels. They love eels in Denmark, but they don't like them in jelly. For them, that's a... Torben's tried some that I've made before, and he said, "Oh, it's not really my thing." What they do is they take the eel segments, powder them in flour, and then fry them in butter or lard, and then it's chew the meat off. And with each piece of eel, you're supposed to drink a shot of aquavit or snaps to wash it down, because it's an oily fish, very oily. It's a white flip fish, but it's oily, like the herring, very oily, but still a white fish. So these will cook now for 10 minutes. Actually, I should have got this going. I'll set it for 8. The old egg timer. There we go. So there we are. So we'll get that going there. And in... yeah. Well, there we are then. So we've got that going. The Trangia I'm using is the... it goes back years, the Trangia. I think it's back to the 50s. And it's a storm... stove, because the actual shape of it forms, it stops the wind all the way around. So you've already got your flames in the lee of the wind, so you can use it anywhere basically. And I tend to use the alcohol burners. I like the alcohol. The only downside is it's a bit sooty. It burns compared to gas quite dirty, so that's your disadvantage. And anyway, but anyway, the Trangia comes with 2 pots. I've got one there, as you can see. That's the large one. That's the slightly smaller one. It's not that much smaller. So you can boil potatoes in there, whatever you like. And I bought this additional frying pan, which is non-stick, because the original frying pan, which I'm using here now, no matter what I've done to it, an egg always sticks, and things always stick to it. You can use it for warming things up, but it's not really a good frying pan, so I invested in one of these. Unfortunately, it's got a bit worn in the middle. I'm thinking that's maybe my fault, because I can see I've got fork marks in here, so I haven't been using the right utensils, and that's important. So I can't really say, oh, that's crap, I should never have bought that. And it is quite old, to be fair. I bought it a few years ago, and it's had some hammer. The Trangia also has its little, it's a nesting system, so all nests together, and then the final thing to go in is your little kettle, and in the kettle you've got your alcohol burner. I have a lighter in as well. I keep my alcohol burner in a plastic bag, because if the alcohol seeps out, it tastes awful. You know, it's not a nice single malt whiskey. It tastes awful. I once made tea from this kettle, and it had some in, and it tasted like crap. But I do have 2 of these burners. That's why one's in action in there, and that's cooking these eels. Come on then. So there's the little kettle, and as I said, it all nestles together. That goes in there, then that goes into the big pot, and this stand here, this what the oven, the burner is sitting in, that nests into each other as well, and these go in, then that makes a lid, and I just put that on the bottom, and it's all held together with this strap, apart from this, but you can get around that. I do have like a net bag I put it all in. So the Trangia is a real good tried and tested camping oven. I use the word camping because it's, end of the day, bushcraft is just the same. You're camping out, really, and I think it's really good. So let's get these boiling. The other thing I've got with me today to make the eels is you need something to make them solid. From what I've seen on the traditional way of doing the eels, the eels have actually still got the skin on. Now when I got these off Torben, they didn't have the skin on. So beggars can't be choosers. So I just chopped them into segments, and I'm making the jellied eel without the skins. But apparently if you've handled an eel, they're very, very slimy. And it's like a gelatine, if you like, a slimy gelatine, and they wriggle all over the place. So I'm presuming, or I'm not presuming, because they actually did say that helps when you put the eels into what I'm going to put them in today. When you put it into the little bowl and it goes solid, the gelatine solid, that's from the eel skin. I haven't done that, as I've just explained. I'm just doing it with gelatine. So what I've got is I've got 3 sheets of gelatine here, and I'm just going to add some water. Some gelatine you can put directly into the boiling liquid, but this sheet gelatine you need to soak for around 10 minutes, around there. So at the same time these eels are ready, this will be ready to go in. And what I'll be doing is I'll take the eels out into the container, and then I'll add the gelatine to the boiling water, and then when it's all melted together I'll put that in to form the eels in jelly. Jellied eels. Yeah, and here we are then, and it seems that it's boiling nicely there. I'll just have a quick look. Yeah, that's boiling lovely. Great stuff. So it won't take too long. If you don't boil them enough, they're a bit rubbery, and if you boil them too much, they all break apart and it comes off the backbone. But it was time to, another reason I'm doing this is because it's time to get these eels eaten. They've been there a long time in the freezer. You caught them back in August, so yeah, August, September, October, November, January, February, March. Yeah, so it's just over the 6 months. Over the 6 months mark where you're supposed to eat fish from the freezer if they're on the bone. Not that you'll get poisoned or anything like that, but apparently the connoisseurs of fish say that the flavour starts to deteriorate and you don't get a quality piece of meat. But the same people say, oh, that fresh fish is always the best. I don't really agree. Some fish is best fresh. That's a tongue twister. Some fish is better fresh. It's like this pheasant plucker thing. That's boiling nicely now. Now I'm looking forward to tasting these because, and I have done them before, as I've mentioned earlier, I have done them before. And they do taste really nice. But the idea for many people, the gelatine in the mouth, and the fact that most people think that eels are snakes, and oh my god, they're hideous. Oh, poppycock, they're not snakes at all, they are a fish. A pretty amazing fish. They're a bit like, well, they're like a salmon in that they migrate from saltwater to freshwater. The only thing is it's reversed. They spawn the eel spawns in freshwater, then runs up into the rivers and lakes and lives its life out there, maybe 20 years, then turns colour into a silver eel, then runs back down into the sea and makes its way across the Atlantic to the Sargasso Sea. And that's where they breed, down in the deep, swirling Sargasso Sea. No one's actually found a breeding eel. It's still a mystery, one of the scientific mysteries. And there's lots of them, but that's just one of them. The other thing about the eel, of course, is that it's declined drastically over the last 20 years. When we were young, back in the late 70s and early 80s when we were fishing, eels were a nuisance. If you had a worm on, you would catch an eel. You couldn't get to the perch for eels. Not the same today. They pretty much were wiped out. Nobody really knows why. There's a lot of different theories, a lot of guesswork going on, as always with science. Yeah. But these eels are from a fjord, which is salt water, and they were put out by the local fishing club as small elvers. They put, I can't remember how many they put out. They put maybe 200,000, and it's a big fjord. Don't get me wrong, but they help the stocks by putting them out, and of course they're catching them again. But if they master how to get the eels breeding artificially, then that'll be a big help. But I don't think anyone's been able to do that. Leave a comment in the comment things if you know that people are doing it artificially, and that it's actually aguila, the European freshwater eel. There we go. So that's ready, and it looks as though these are about, we've maybe got half a minute left, then these will be done. Oiling nicely. Of course, it's I'm just thinking back, it's not just the eel and pie shops. It's not just the mash and pie shops that sell jellied eel. There we go. They also have little kiosks that sell seafood, so you get whelks, mussels, all kinds of things, and little tubs of jellied eel, which are in a small polystyrene cup. And they stand out there, all these cockneys, and they eat these eels. Now, again, it's back on good old YouTube. We can see anything on YouTube, and they eat the eel and they spit the backbone on the floor. That's the traditional way of doing it, with a bit of vinegar and a bit of salt. Delicious. But we'll find out today, won't we? Or you'll find out, because I know that it does taste nice. But there we go. There's the eel. It's been boiling. I'll just have a look at that. Yeah, those sections look nicely boiled through. There we go. So what I'll do is I'll fish these out, place them in the Tupperware dish. It's Tupperware, the original. There's about a pound of eels here. Well, it certainly smells good. So there we are. So there's the eel sections all in the tub ready. And now I shall add the gelatine. This doesn't take long. You just basically put it in I think it's soaked enough. There we go. So in goes the gelatine. Don't just slosh it in. Move it around in the hot water so it dissolves instead of sinking to the bottom in one lump. Then it, yeah, you see that's dissolving lovely. If you just plop it in one lump, it goes to the bottom. I've done this making jam, believe it or not. It goes to the bottom in a big lump, and it's not very good. So all this has to do basically is melt and get mixed in with the. It's almost like a broth. It smells absolutely wonderful. Of course, if you don't like fish, it'll smell absolutely hideous. Oh my God, what is that hideous smell? But I love fish. There we go. So that's all ready. So the liquor's ready. Let's call it that. So this just goes on to the eel. And just to cover the eel, that's all you need. I'll push them around. That's perfect. That can just sit there while I put this. Now the other thing about the Trangia, back to the Trangia, look at this, you can pick it up and move it. It's not hot at all. Brilliant construction, brilliant idea. This is, for me, this is like the Stanley thermos flask. It's a must. Buy one. Maybe a bit cumbersome if you're going one man packing, one person packing, you know, doing a solo trip, might be a bit cumbersome. But because you can cook for two on this, the pans are all big enough to cook a meal for two, which I've done many times. On the other hand, you've got a good cook set, a real good cook set. But we'll leave all that to cool. And I suppose you don't need me to tell you how all this nests together. It's pretty much, I can show you a little bit. Let me just get I'll get rid of this broth. 2 seconds. So we have the big pan. These tabs are what support the pots. If you're frying the tabs, you have the tabs up and it sits up there. But if you're doing like I've just done, you have them down. But when you're packing it away, it basically goes like that. They flip down, this sits on top, and that is reversed, so it all sandwiches together. As I showed you where the strap holds it all together. And it's a nice bit of kit. Nests together really nice. Okay then, back to the eels. It's backwards and forwards today. These are basically ready. I've just covered the eel with the broth, and now I can just put this in a cold place, preferably with no cats or dogs for that matter, and that will set hard and become jelly. Now then, this will be a long and very boring vlog to wait for that. So what I've done, I've prepared one earlier. Here's one I prepared earlier, as they used to say on Blue Peter. I'll get it out. Alrighty then, here's the one I prepared earlier. Blue Peter, it was a children's youth programme back in the 70s and 80s, and that was their catchphrase. Here's one I made earlier, here's one I prepared earlier. For any of you that grew up in England and around my age in your late 50s, then you'll remember it all. There was people like John Noakes and Valerie Singleton. But anyway, that's drifting into nostalgia. Let's try these eels. Jellied eel, London style. I suppose if we talk about the ingredients, there's a lot of variations you could do. There's, you know, I've used pretty simple, as I said, bay leaves, pepper, salt, and a bit of rosemary. I'm sure you could put all sorts of, you could put chilli in if you wanted. But let's have a look at these eels. Oh, a nice solid piece of jelly. Some of you might be feeling sick now. You know, and I don't blame you. I suppose the idea does sound a bit jellied eels. Anyway, there we go. So what I'll do is I'll try one first without any vinegar and salt, see what that's like. So I'll use fingers, excuse fingers. So let's have a bite of the old eel. It tastes really nice. It does. I'm getting a bit of a gag reflex with the jelly though. It does taste good. It does need salt in on this occasion. So I brought out a little salt pot, a little bit of salt. I don't have any malt vinegar now. If you was in a little seafood bar in the East End, I'm sure you'd have malt vinegar, but we don't have any of that here, so I'm using this little drop of white wine vinegar. White wine vinegar? How sophisticated. Well, whatever, as long as it tastes good. So let's have this with a bit of vinegar on. That's better. And that bit of salt as well, that's really good. And very healthy. High in omega-3, this eel stuff. Yeah. Oh, I'll enjoy eating those. That's really good. Okay then. So that's a northerner's view of jellied eels. I like them. There is the first bit of the jelly gets you gagging. You get a bit of a reflex, but once you get a drop of vinegar on and the salt, it just seems to take that away. It certainly did then, and the eel itself tastes wonderful. Now, I'm not suggesting you go out and buy or catch a ton of eels and kill them all and take them home. They are threatened. Like I said, this is in Denmark where they seem to be stocking the eels. So I wouldn't go out just taking wild eels. But yeah, I think that worked out all right. A little bit of a look at some cooking equipment. And I'm sure all you bushcrafters, now the good weather's coming, you're chomping at the bit to get out there and doing your overnight shelter building and all that jazz. Good luck to you lot. Excellent. Alright then, so that's a little vlog about jellied eels and a Trangia. I'll talk to you all later. Toodle pip.